Olin, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. I'm good. A little Christmas morning in London yesterday when the Bears scoring all those points. So it was fun to watch Chicago Bears put up all those points yesterday after a little bit of a slow start, but they're right where a lot of people thought they would be. And now we're really interested on what they'll do next when they play the Washington Commanders. Almost can't wait through this bye week. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah, I think that is probably to their benefit to see if they can get the secondary back and healthy. And, there were a lot of guys out. But I think, Olin, I was super impressed by the fact that they had a couple of defensive tackles that they've added to the team. You get a sack by Chris Williams. Byron Cowart gets a half sack. You saw a interception from a guy that doesn't play all the time. I felt like a lot of the people that they have been going to are playing pretty well too. They've done a pretty good job, and the general manager had said that it's going to be a hard football team to make. Well, some of the guys that didn't even make the team, some of the practice squatters are forced to play and playing pretty well.
Yeah, and if you go to the other side of the ball, just talking about stuff like that prior, right? Prior
Mm-hmm.
coming in at right guard and him playing well. So some of these guys who you didn't expect a lot from, and some of them had struggled right against the run, especially the two defensive tackles you mentioned, Robinson and Coward. It's good to see them make plays, and guys like Elijah Hicks and Jones, right, coming up and played in the
Yes.
secondary. We're really worried about them going into the game. Now, look, watching the game this morning, Davis drops the ball in the end zone. Evan Ingram's fumbles, right? TJ Edwards, guys. I was thinking about why the game was so much fun to watch, right? Besides Caleb Williams throwing the ball, but you think about Cole Kmet and all he did, right? The St. Viator product, and he scores a touchdown, and then he snaps the ball, and you come right out of the halftime, and another local guy, TJ Edwards, causes a fumble, right? And that's why that game was so fun yesterday to watch the Chicago Bears play that style of football, get the takeaways that they want, score a lot of points, and like you're talking about, Mully, get contributions from guys maybe we didn't expect it from going into the season. So it was a good game to watch. They got a good contributions from a lot of people that you're watching. Okay, going into the game, can Elijah Hicks, can Jones, can he do the job? And when you watch the Jaguars' first drive, there's no way you couldn't have been worried about what you were worried about, right? You were worried. You're even more worried after the Jaguars' first drive and the way they controlled the ball and controlled the clock. And then, of course, the Jaguars are going to Jaguar and get all their penalties and back themselves up. So, but like you're saying, those guys did contribute yesterday. Chicago Bears played a good football game.
So when people ask you about the Bears at the bye, 4-2, and they look ahead at the schedule and they look back at what they've done up through 6 games, how do you advise them to balance the enthusiasm over what is a very promising start with the reality that the second half of the schedule, things get a lot more serious, and these 4 victories have come against teams that aren't very good?
Well, what we've been through, David, I heard you mention earlier, I think it's been 14 years since we beat the Seahawks at Soldier Field in 2011, right? So I was on the field. Anybody watching Twitch can see how old I am now. That's the last time the Bears won a playoff game. So I advise them to be excited. I advise them to be excited about this football team. Enjoy what they just did. Enjoy those 3 wins, and don't count the wins of the team they just beat, because I did that last night and it kind of ruined it for me. But be excited about a young quarterback playing good football, making throws like he did to Keenan Allen, making throws like he did to Cole Kmet, making throws to Rome Odunze. Be excited about a young quarterback who looks like he's trying to play football the right way. We talked about last night on the post-game show. Guys, when a guy is trying to execute the freeze play, right, where you're trying to draw somebody off sides at the end of half on a 4th and short, and he's really into it, there's a guy I can buy into, man. There's a guy who really wants to worry about the details of the offense. So watching things like that as a former football player gets me excited about this young quarterback. We all know what those teams are. We all know what the record of the Rams, the Panthers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are. We all know how bad their defense is. But the Bears did handle the last 2 teams, and they put them away, and they beat them pretty badly. So excited to see this team against, like we're talking about, better football teams. Everybody's going to say the same thing. right? They're going to hear the same thing. Chicago Bears, are they real, right? And they have to go watch the film, and they have to figure out for themselves what was real that they saw and what wasn't real, what won't work. How can we get better off of a win? How can we concentrate on our details? You guys hear this from coaches, cliche, right? Details, fundamentals. How can we clean things up after a win? It's the best time to get better.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Olin, there is a statistic out there. Apparently, the NFL Football Operations website has a statistic. Teams that start 4-2 historically have a 67% chance to make the playoffs. Now, we've talked about it. We mentioned it this morning. You look at the record of their opponents. You look at the teams they played. You can only control what you can control. And they do appear to be getting better, and they do appear to be hopefully building confidence. And, you never know in the league when somebody's going to be hit by an injury that is a debilitating one. Aiden Hutchinson goes down. That's almost like a clinical surgical injury that is really going to damage Detroit and their hopes. I don't know that means the Bears are going to beat them. I'm just saying until you play someone, you don't know who you're really playing.
Yeah, you lose Hutchinson. That's a big loss, but we know the line. Where are you going to find your closer, right? Where are you going to find your pass rush when you lose a guy like Aiden Hutchinson? Look, we're waiting to hear about Kyler Gordon, right? And start a second half, and he grabbed that hamstring. And we're hoping he's okay because he's probably having what I thought was his best football game as a pro. The disguises that Coach Eberflus was using on those blitzes, it was impressive to watch. We talked about how would they stop the run going through this game? How would they load the box with Tyreek Stevenson and Brister out? Man, Kyler Gordon came alive. Did a great job on those blitzes, did a great job coming in off the edge, did a great job coming in the B gap. It was fun to watch, and we hope he's okay. But like you're talking about, Mully, you never know who you're playing down the road, and that's why you can only win the games that you play. When's the last time we looked at the schedule and said, man, the Chicago Bears have 3 winnable games here, and then they won them, right? And they won them, and they won them convincingly. Like they didn't just win these 3 games. And then we actually watched a quarterback spread the field, work the ball to his receivers. I remember the third down, he threw to Keenan Allen, man, and he had like on the touchdown, he had a syringe, and he was shooting into his arm. I mean, look, man, the guy has arm talent. He has all the things you saw on film. Obviously, the Chicago Bears using some college concepts to get him healthy out there on the field. We don't know who we're going to play. Just really interested, guys, to watch this team grow, get better. We all know what we're watching, right? We all know what we've been waiting for years here, especially a former center who played center for the Chicago Bears for 13 years. We know what we're waiting for. We know what we're watching. Can we get a little excited about a young quarterback who looks like he's capable of being the guy the Chicago Bears have never had? Yes, we are a little excited about it. What's real, what's not, who's going to be injured, who's not going to be injured. That's for us sports radio guys to talk about. I will say this. I've done 1 playoff game since I've done analyst work for about 10 years now. I'd like to do another one.
This segment with Olin Kreutz is sponsored by Fireplace and Chimney Authority. Visit online or their Elmhurst and Lisle showrooms. So, Olin, help us to understand why DeAndre Swift has been more effective lately. I know that he gets going when you throw him a screen pass and he it kind of helps maybe unlock the running game. He gets going in space and those kinds of things. But as far as adjusting to his offensive line, or maybe the offensive line adjusting to him, he has been more effective the last 3 weeks. What do you think is the biggest reason why?
Well, what you just said. I think that Coach Waldron, I think these guys are getting to know each other, right, David? Like, this preseason right now, it's hard to figure your guys out, figure out what they're good at, what they're not good at. Credit Coach Waldron, his coaching staff, Coach Morgan, his run game coordinator, finding out what DeAndre Swift is good at. And then remember, Coach Eberflus said, I brought him into my office, and I told him, you got to press that ball downhill, and we got to hit those holes. There was a run there early in the first 2 drives. I think it was the first drive. He ran, and he's like trying to make a guy miss that's not there, right? You got to get going moving forward. So some of those things kind of creep back into his game sometimes, but he's not doing as much of it. And then they give him swing passes, Mully and David, and then they give him screen passes, and that gets him going. I think that gets him lathered up. We talked about him after his big game against the Panthers, and we said, man, maybe he gets lathered up in a different way than most backs, right? Maybe it's a screen pass. Maybe it's a swing pass. Yesterday, when Caleb went to the no huddle and he got to the line of scrimmage and he tossed right, I think he called it Icky Rover, right? Icky Rover, Rover's to the right. Us football players, you know, we're real smart. So we use R words when we go right and we use L words when we go left. So they call it Icky Rover and it's tossed right. And that got him going a little bit, right? Darnell Wright and Cole Kmet, great double team, moving guys off the ball. Swift he was an interesting guy for me coming into the season because I thought, man, when I watched film, I thought he's talented, but maybe a little bit more of a scat back than an every down back. Well, these last 3 weeks, he's trying to prove me a little bit wrong that he can get the ball, he can run downhill, he's strong, he can get those extra yards like everybody else on this Bears team. He's made me interested in watching him against a better defense.
Olin, we talked a little bit on Saturday about the first 15 thing, and David did some dive into it and said, "Well, I'll let David tell you what the what happened and what they came away with."
Well, some concepts were called openers, and they always had openers, Olin. I don't think they had the specific 15 plays scripted out until the players approached Shane Waldron and said that they would prefer it to be that specific. And I think that they went into it not without a plan to have like the first 15 or 20 plays scripted, but they didn't call them necessarily the first 15. They referred to them as openers, and that they felt like they didn't want to give Caleb Williams too much too soon, which I think you could debate as well. Maybe he needed that. But anyway, until the players approached Shane Waldron, they didn't make those changes.
Yeah, and I credit Shane Waldron. I mean, I know you kind of figured when Stacey Dales came out with that report that they were doing something, right? And that's what you were worried about. Like, actually, if they weren't doing anything, then we really got a problem here. But they were doing something. They had openers. They didn't have them listed. The one thing you could do when you list them, and I've talked about this before, is now the players know what your game plan is. They're collecting information. And even though you start out as bad as you started out, everyone's talking about, okay, they're going to play this personnel, this formation like this, right? And the Chicago Bears, now they're on the sideline. They're talking about it. It's getting Caleb more involved in the game, more involved in a game plan. Oh, okay, now I know they're going to run this blitz or this front or this could happen against this team. So the openers really give you something to study. You know, I would get it on Friday. I would study it against different looks on the video. I would study it Saturday night. I would look over it again Sunday morning. So those plays are really important for me, which is why I didn't want to dive into it too much, but I was worried about it when I heard it. I thought, man, if they had nothing, that would have been crazy. But obviously they had some openers. Now they list them. Everybody's a little more comfortable with what they're doing right now. You can tell, and like we talked about with Swift, I think they're just getting to know each other a little bit better. I think they're all working together. The offense looks like they're moving in the right direction. You see what they're doing to get Caleb comfortable, right? You see, even yesterday I saw a center tackle counter when Caleb kept it and kept it around the right edge and gained some yards on like a quarterback read. And a center tackle counter, man, that really is a college concept. So adding in a few things that he's comfortable with and then go tempo offense, spread the field with those good wide receivers you got. Let him look at what the defense is presenting him. Let him get into plays that makes him comfortable. There's your first 15. Everybody's comfortable. Everybody knows what direction we're moving in now. For example, the one thing they changed yesterday on the first third down, remember they were struggling with the Jaguars pass rush, right? They had to set 2 sacks, I think, on the first third down.
Yeah.
They went away. They said, why the hell? This stadium is louder for us. Why the hell are we in silent count, right? So they went to their cadence. They went away from silent count because the Jaguars are jumping. They had advantage on the Bears' offensive line. And then I think to myself, man, what are they going to do against Washington, right, in a couple of weeks? Because you're going to have to use the silent count for 2 games in a row. So there's something right there immediately, something Chicago Bears you got to get better at.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of looking at it, too. The things they need to get better at in the bye week, Olin. I mean, I know the players are off, but this is where the coaches should really be able to dig in and kind of work and tweak some of these concepts so they can get things up and running, and they should look better after getting some rest, getting some health, and hopefully getting a new direction to some of the things that maybe isn't going brilliantly.
I can see Coach Washington studying all the games that they played and studying their run fits,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then make a cut up. And cut up, like you guys know, is 15 to 20 plays of how we did it well. You don't want to show them what they did wrong. You also want to show them what they do well, right? It's okay. This is us doing it well. This is us not doing it right. I can think about yesterday's game. Kyler Gordon came off the edge, and Taylor and him were in the same gap. I don't know who was right and who was wrong on a blitz, but you can't do stuff like that, right? And then there was also yesterday when they lined up wrong on this. I think it was the second drive. They lined up wrong and got a penalty, and they take a timeout, right? We got to get that corrected, right? On offense, what have we done well? What have we not done well? What do we need to work on? They've had some moving pieces there on the offensive line. They can start to go over their silent count, right? Immediately, I'm thinking to myself, man, if I'm Coach Morgan, I'm putting together a cut-up of our silent count, pass blocking, and having my tackles get to their spot and really working on throwing a punch and not getting hit and not ducking my head. So there's a lot, like you're talking about, that they can work on, keep working on developing the relationship between Keenan Allen. What do DJ Moore and Caleb Williams, what do they see together? What do they do well? Let's put more of those concepts into our offense. How can we hide it with motion and formation and keep this offense moving in the right direction? And like you're talking about, Mully, these kind of weeks, if you can organize them, it doesn't take a ton of work. If you can just really organize and pick out, okay, this is what we got to get better at. This is what's going to help us beat the good teams. This is what won't work when we're in Minnesota on the road against Flores and he's going blitz zero, right? Guys, this right here, what we did yesterday on the first 2 third downs, what we did yesterday on the first 2 third downs, we will be in a world of beep if we do this again in Minnesota and we show Coach Flores that we can't handle pressure.
This segment with Olin Kreutz is sponsored by Plumbers 911. Plumbing emergency, call the plumbing professionals, available 24/7 at 1-833-PLUM-911.
We're out of time, Olin, but real quickly, dumb question. Why aren't more centers backup long snappers because of the shotgun situation? No, I'm just
Olin doesn't long snap, man. Get that straight.
I heard you guys say about Cole Kmet's dad told him, right?
Yeah.
Cole Kmet, now that anyway, we could rave about him after yesterday's game, right? Fun football player to watch. His dad told him that, what else would you do? And I thought to myself, man, construction, right? If I got a long snap, I'll just be a construction worker. Not for me, David. Like, I just was never interested in long snapping, right? Like, people have told me that. I've heard that before, right? The more you can do, you better learn how to long snap. I said, look, if center doesn't work out, I'll be on the road, right? Painting the lines, the hot tar, laying the hot tar down, sweating, waiting for my beer on a Friday afternoon.
You'd be a great construction worker, but I
would.
You would
Trust me, I would have been great at drinking beers after and telling everybody how great I was in high school at football, and I would have made it if not for a certain injury, right? I always hear that. Olin, man, my career was derailed. David, why didn't you make it out of Ball State at cornerback? You had some injury, right?
Yeah, but I had I was slow. I had a bad hammy. Exactly.
No, you are not slow, man. The way you can process information, I can see you coming downhill like Mike Brown, lining everybody up, getting to the ball. Except 19, whatever the year that was, 89. Fresno State was a tough game at the end of the year.
Oh, man, you have a memory. Do you have a memory like an elephant? All right, I just wondered if the shotgun snap being what it is, a little bit further back to the holder or to the punter, why more guys don't try?
Pat Manley will make you think it's easy. Patrick Manley, now one of the best ever, right?
Yeah.
Credit Cole Kmet for learning that skill because it is not an easy thing to do. Credit him for holding it, keeping it so he can do it, and helping his football team and being a team player. Because I will tell you, the answer to your question is very simple. The reason more guys don't do it is because it's not an easy thing to do.
Good answer.
And Olin, Pat, they did not have to punt after that. So I wonder if the punting snap is different. And Pat said that a couple of the snaps were a little bit high. Cairo Santos said that he should be the special teams player of the week for filling in and doing that. Yeah.
Listen, you guys remember Pat used to snap the ball through a moving car and all those things he used to do. I mean, Pat was in, these questions for him. He was an extremely good long snapper. Just to answer your question, I maybe tried it once or twice, and I was like, man, if I don't make it playing offensive line, I have to find something else to do. And I wasn't going to be a doctor, and I wasn't going to be a lawyer. So you do the math.
Olin, you're the best. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, guys.